We knocked on thousands of doors, teams, wave yes, Team Gold, love it, to talk to voters about what's at stake in this election. We spoke to voters about Donald Trump's Project 2025 agenda, his plan to sign a national abortion ban into law, raise costs for middle families by thousands of dollars a year, and give himself unchecked power. And we talked to them about Vice President Harris's very, very different vision to chart a new way forward that makes life better for all of us. We persuaded people to vote for Vice President Harris, Senator Baldwin, and all of our Democrats down the ballot because voters, and all of us in this room, do not want those policies. We spoke to voters who support Vice President Harris and Senator Baldwin and had no idea they could early vote right now, and we directed them, as you should direct everyone in your lives, to vote.wisdems margin of victory. They are the 3 votes in every single ward that are essential to our win. The election is in 8 days. I don't want votes, so I'm going to plug again. So, Madison, are you all ready to talk to voters tonight and for the next week? Yes. After the event is over, I would encourage. I see lots of people in blue stickers already. That means they've signed up. Text to 10 friends or family members. I would love to introduce Congressman Mark Pocan.
Isn't it great to be in a room full of progressives here tonight? Well, tonight we have a very special treat. I don't know about you, but I'm so excited that we have not just one, but 2 of the biggest progressive leaders in this country here with us tonight. For the last 12 years. He's a founder of the Congressional Progressive Caucus that I chaired for 4 years. Places like Iowa, Nevada, and New Hampshire. And I can tell you, we have a strong progressive movement today because of Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. And to have the next generation of leadership of the movement tonight with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'll tell you, Alexandria is a leading voice for tackling climate change with the Green New Deal. She's also fighting for human rights for all people, including Palestinians. She's fighting for economic policies that benefit the many, not the few, and for an America to live up to its promise for everyone. The country is in great hands with the next generation of leaders like AOC ready to take charge and make America even better. Let's welcome Alex. And tonight is about making the progressive case for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And we're reminding everyone that we can vote early in person between now and Sunday. Who here has voted already? Let's hear it. That's great. Who here plans to vote tomorrow or still this week early in person? That's great. We need to get every single person out between now and November 5th. I've been watching the campaigns of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris closely the last few months, as we all have, and you might think that they were running to lead 2 completely different countries. Trump is taking the role of the fascist authoritarian and wants to scare the shit out of you by painting a dystopian America. He attempts to shepherd his sheep by asking them to remember the good old days of the Trump administration. Well, remember those days? He inherited a strong economy from Barack Obama only to tear it to pieces by failing to address COVID quickly and effectively. And during his 4 years as president, border crossings were still occurring just as robustly, but nothing was actually done to secure the border effectively, and absolutely, Mexico didn't pay for a single thing. What he did get done, however, was to pass a tax cut for the wealthiest, where 83% of the money went to the top 1%, and he added over $7 trillion to the national debt, more in a single term than any other president in history. Fast forward to now, the wealthiest in this country are supporting Trump because they want another kick at that tax cut can. Think about Elon Musk. Elon is on track to be the first trillionaire in history. Can you imagine the tax cut, what that would mean for him? Billions and billions of dollars of savings? Why wouldn't he give away $1 million a day until the election to invest in saving billions and billions of dollars? That's a cheap investment for a dipshit like him. And we know what Donald Trump did to reproductive health care freedom in this country. His Supreme Court picks ended Roe, and he doesn't respect women, and he doesn't respect anyone that's not a wealthy, straight, white male. It's more than apparent. But we have a chance to move this country forward in a more progressive way that benefits real people, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will help get that done. To ensure that we are not the only industrialized nation in this planet without universal health care, we can move this country closer towards a Medicare for all or similar system of universal health care. We can stop degrading the environment and work to reverse climate change by investing in renewable energies that not only make the planet healthier, but create jobs right here in America. We can invest our tax dollars in the American people by addressing free college, eliminating student debt, making it easier to buy a home and easier to form a union to get better pay and benefits for you and your family. And in doing all of these things, we must respect and protect every single person, regardless of the color of their skin, their national origin, their gender, or who they love. We have just 1 week to elect the leaders we need at this moment, and we need everyone's help to get it done. First, vote. Vote early, in person, at over 36 different spots right here in Madison, including on campus. Get it done by Sunday so you're not too busy on November 5th. And second, take Election Day off or sign up for some shifts to get out the vote. If you can't, make a list at Madison. Will you vote early in person, Madison? Will you help get out others to vote as well to make sure that we're getting every vote to send the best leaders to Washington? Will you vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and send Tammy Baldwin back to the U.S. Senate? That's right, Madison. Progressives get it done, and your hard will make sure the next an advocate for our planet, and a fighter who will.
Warm welcome of the United States. Cortez. I am from the Bronx, New York. And I am so happy. There we go. Go Yankees. We got the game coming on. Sorry, I know we got some Dodgers fans. I had to get it in. Thank you all so much for welcoming me tonight. And it's incredibly special and deeply meaningful to be able to spend this evening with you all here in Wisconsin and in Madison, especially at such an important precipice and moment for us as a country, because we are about to experience an enormous and momentous event when those polls and those results come in. And we are here tonight because we want to ensure that those results mean that Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States. Now, we know, of course, many of us have heard some of what had happened at the Madison Square Garden rally. And that was right in my hometown of New York. We just came from there this morning and flew in today. And I want us to really talk about what happened there and what that experience is. Because the logic of someone like the Trump campaign and someone like Donald Trump is to try to isolate that incident, when, first of all, they knew exactly what they were doing. Let's dispense with this idea of it's just a joke, or this was someone else, or this was just a comedian. We all saw there were two teleprompters right there on both sides of that screen. They were loaded with words. And it wasn't just about the fact that Donald Trump rallied tens of thousands of people, of Americans, to rally and froth behind words like calling Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage, saying absolutely horrific things about Latino Americans, saying horrific things about women that he has said, about how he moves on them and how he touches them and what he's been convicted, or rather what he's been found liable for in a court of law. But the reason they do this is because they are preying on us not seeing ourselves in each other. They want us to think that he's not talking about me. He's talking about some other. It's the same kind of logic that says a Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx has no business connecting with a community in Madison, Wisconsin. But I have a message for individuals that operate on that logic, that the identity of our country is so much deeper than the division they seek to stoke between us. Every day, when I walk into our nation's capital and I step foot on the floor of the United States House of Representatives alongside your incredible Congressman, Mark Pocan, we walk through those hollowed doors and see emblazoned on the floor of the People's House, one phrase, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. They want us to think that it's the other way around, that there is many and there is no one. There's no unity in this country. Because if we do not see that ourselves and others, then they can divide us so that they can sell our country for parts to the highest bidder and the billionaire that wants to buy us out. And we're not going to let them do that. We're not going to let them do that. We cannot let them do that. And so when we hear an individual, like whether it's Donald Trump or one of his cronies on a stage, talking about our fellow Americans as a pile of garbage, know that he's talking about us. He's talking about you. When he calls our service members and our veterans suckers and losers, he is talking about us. He's talking about you. When he talks on how he moved on young women like they were a B word, he's talking about all of us. All of us. When he pursues that, and it's very important for us to understand that racism is not a name or an insult. It is a descriptor of a belief system. It's a descriptor of a belief system. And Donald Trump believes that Americans are not created equal. He believes, and the people that he puts in power, like Stephen Miller, they believe that U.S. citizens are not created equal. So when they go on a stage and echo the words of Adolf Hitler, this is real life. This is real life. When he goes up on a stage and the people that he wants to appoint as leadership heads in administration, and they echo the words of Adolf Hitler, in America for Americans. No, he's not talking about U.S. citizens. He's talking about who he believes is loyal enough to Donald Trump, and that's who he considers an American. We cannot let this happen to our country. We must defend our nation, and that is what we do when we knock on our neighbor's door. Because the way that we defend our nation is by seeing ourselves in others, in understanding that he is not exempting us when he talks about the way he talks about undocumented people, or the way he talks about the poor, or the way he talks about people who live in cities or in suburbs, or women or LGBT people. He is talking about us. When he talks about trans people, he's talking about us. When he uses these descriptors as trying to make us believe that, oh, that's not me he's talking about, it is you he's talking about. It's everyone less than him that he's talking about. It's Americans that he's talking about. It's our Constitution that he's trampling and tearing up. It's our big attack. And it's by coming together. But I don't mean coming around. It's about the vision and what we want to come together for, not just what we seek to oppose and what we're against. Kamala Harris does have someone like Donald Trump the same day, and when he calls our service members suckers and losers, you know what Democrats do? Protect them in their time here at home, who are trying to and pretend like there's nothing left in the coffers for Medicare and Social Security. Kamala Harris comes out and says, we're going to improve Medicare. We're going to expand health care. We're going to lower prescription drug prices for every American. So this idea that Donald Trump is somehow better for the economy, let me tell you who he's better on the economy for. Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk, billionaires. If you're a billionaire, Donald Trump has a better economic plan for you. But if you're not a billionaire, Kamala Harris is your nominee for President of the United States. Period. We don't have to be divided between rural and urban and suburban. If you're a New Yorker, if you're from Wisconsin, if you're from Nebraska, if you're from Texas, if you're white, if you're Latino, if you're black, Kamala Harris is the better nominee for President of the United States for you. And if you're a working class American, if you work for a living, And if you put food on the table through honest day-to-day work, a Democratic trifecta will work to expand health care, codify Roe v. Wade, and ensure that every American has the right to choose. This is not close, Madison. This is not tight, Wisconsin. The polls are narrow, but the choice is clear. The choice is clear. But the polls are narrow because of a billionaire class that has taken over our media environment and has poisoned the well of American culture and has done so much damage that people are afraid to even look at each other in the eye. We cannot allow that to be what becomes of us. I will not allow it, and I know you won't allow it either. I know you won't. I know you won't. But it's so critical and so important that we do that work. 6 years ago, I was a waitress in downtown New York City. And I worked for cash tips every day. I'll never forget, for the rest of my life, how it felt at the end of a long double shift. My joints ached. One time I got on the train and I was so tired that I fell asleep. And when I woke up, all the cash that I had made in that day was gone. Devastating. It's devastating. You go home and you're not sure if the lights are going to be on when you're struggling that hard. I came from a working family. My mom cleaned houses growing up. I did my homework on other people's kitchen tables to get to school. We all come from the same kind of story and the same kind of background. When I was 16 years old, my parents had worked so hard to try to put together an American dream. And they had worked and scrapped and put everything together, going from extreme poverty to being able to have a small home with 2 kids. And then all of a sudden, my dad was diagnosed with a very rare form of lung cancer, didn't even smoke. And from there, we lost almost everything. Almost everything. And so a lot of times when Republicans try to make fun of me for being a waitress, they don't know why I became a waitress. It was to help my parents, and to help my mom after my dad had eventually passed away from cancer, make ends meet. They are constantly trying to make lives harder for everyday Americans. And we have to make life better. That's all this is about. That's all this is about. That's it. But once again, this race is tighter than it ever should be. I know a lot of us look at these polls and we cannot believe that the race is this tight. It's almost like we're in different realities. And this is something that we're going to have to contend with and heal for a long time to come. That challenge is not going away. It's something that we're going to have to figure out. But between now and November 5th, we need to mobilize every single person we can to make sure that we get to the polls. And I often say, I've been all across the country. I've been to Pennsylvania. This is my second time here in Madison. We've been to Austin, Texas. We've been to Nevada. We've been all over the country. And the one thing that I say is that people constantly talk about who a swing voter is. But a swing voter is not just from red to blue. This is what we say. It's from couch to booth. It's from couch to booth. And our job is to persuade as many people to go from couch to booth. And the way that we do that is by seeing them. It's by seeing them and identifying with them and understanding that it does not matter how different a walk of life another Americans may seem. I guarantee there's something in common that we can find, common ground, and the way to bridge that divide. So Madison, I know that we can do this. I'm here because I know that we can do this. And y'all are welcome to New York anytime. But we must get this done. It is go time, it is serious, and we will prevail, because I do believe in e pluribus unum, out of many one. So I'll thank you all very much. Have a beautiful night. And I want to introduce to you all the next person who's about to come up here. Oh, thank you. Thank you all. I want to introduce the next person. You'll keep it going, because honestly, my story would not have been possible if it wasn't for Senator Bernie Sanders. I know that when I was running for office, I didn't think that politics could have ever possibly be a place for a person like me, a person that comes from a working class background with no connections and no money or any of that. But when Bernie ran, he showed that you don't need any of that to serve. And seeing that inspired me and thought, well, maybe there's room for one more. And then after that, another, and another, and another. And so I want to introduce to you the senator who really started it all, Senator Bernie Sanders. Thank you.
Power to the people! Power to the people! Power to the people! Power to the people! Power to the people!
Thank you, Madison. Let me thank Alexandria not only for that lovely introduction, but for the extraordinary work she is doing all over this country. She is inspiring an entire generation of Americans. And let me thank you for sending Mark Pocan to the United States House. And while I'm at it, let me beg of you, return Tammy Baldwin to the U.S. Senate. Now, it's hard to follow Mark and Alexandria, but let me just say this. This is a close election. And given our crazy political system, what happens in the state of Vermont doesn't matter, because Trump is going to lose Vermont by 30 points. What happens in Wyoming doesn't matter, because Trump is going to win there by 30 points. So what happens in 50 states doesn't really matter. What happens in 10 states does matter. And what happens in Wisconsin matters very, very much. So we have filled this place up. We got 1,000 or more people here, and in a state where this election could be decided by a handful of votes, if each and every person here brought out 2 or 3 more people to the polling booths, you could make the difference in terms of what happens in Wisconsin. Wisconsin can make the difference in terms of what happens in America, and what America does changes the world. So you got a little bit of responsibility on your shoulders. And that means that in the next week, do everything you can to make sure that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States. Now, I don't want to spend tonight a whole lot of time on Donald Trump, because he is not worth a whole lot of time. But I think what is really important and quite interesting in this crazy election is that for the first time, I think ever, you have somebody who is running for president, and you have his former vice president, Mike Pence, an extremely conservative Republican. You have Mike Pence saying, I cannot support the guy I work with for 4 years. Can't support him. You have John Kelly, his chief of staff, who says, you know, I know Donald Trump. I've been in closed-door meetings with Donald Trump. I know what he wants to do to this country. And I cannot support Donald Trump. You have Mitt Romney. He's on my committee. Conservative Republican. Disagree with him on everything. But he has moral and religious values. And Mitt Romney is not supporting. Romney, who was the Republican candidate for President of the United States, and you got many others. So the point is not that I or Alexandria agree with these guys on virtually anything, but they do have the decency and the sense to understand that we cannot allow somebody to be President of the United States who is a pathological liar and who is working night and day to undermine American democracy. I want to talk a little bit about what Kamala is going to do. When she began her campaign, the very first thing that she said was that as I go around the country, I see a major housing crisis, and it's not just homelessness. What it is that we are seeing people paying 50 or 60% of their limited incomes for housing. Not acceptable. Let's build 3 million units of affordable housing. Let's take on the corporate landlords who are ripping off their tenants every single day. Let's make it easier for working class people to own their own homes. And Kamala understands something that everybody in this room should understand, that it is an absolute disgrace that in America we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And what Kamala is proposing, what she is proposing is a permanent extension of the child tax credit, which will lower childhood poverty by at least 40% in this country. What Kamala understands is that all over America, you have elderly folks and people with disabilities who want to stay in their own homes, but are being forced to go into nursing homes because they cannot afford the help they need to stay at home. And that is why in a very significant step forward, what Kamala is saying, we got to expand Medicare to cover home health care. And Kamala understands, shamefully, because we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people, she understands there are millions of seniors can't afford hearing aids, can't afford eyeglasses. We're going to expand Medicare to cover those as well. You know, some of you may have noticed, it was a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump had an honest 15 minutes of work in McDonald's. Finally did some honest work. And he goes to McDonald's, he does his photo opportunity, which is fine, everybody has a photo opportunity. And the reporter says to them, well, you know, you were here at McDonald's, how do you feel about raising the minimum wage? And with Trump says, oh, I love McDonald's workers. They're great people. I love McDonald's. How you feel about raising the minimum? Oh, I love McDonald's workers. He didn't answer the question. He ducked the question. And the reason he ducked the question is that at a time when we have 20 million workers in America earning less than $15 an hour, Donald Trump and his friends do not want to raise the minimum wage above the $7.25 an hour it currently is. Now, how bloody disgraceful is it that you have a so-called billionaire, Trump, and a zillionaire, Elon Musk, running around the country, and they will not give a pay raise to millions of workers. Kamala Harris understands that the $7.25 minimum wage is an absolute disgrace. It's got to be raised to a living wage at least $15 an hour. One of the exciting developments that has occurred in the last couple of years, and I know Alexandria has been involved in it, Mark's been involved in it, I've been involved in it, we are seeing a significant expansion of the trade union movement in America. And as somebody who grew up in a working class home, lived in a rent-controlled apartment, I know why. And that is that the working people of America are sick and tired of the corporate greed they are seeing every single day. So not only are we seeing great unions taking on that corporate greed and saying to the CEOs of these large corporations, you are making tens of millions of dollars a year. You know what? You're going to pay our workers a decent wage and give us decent benefits. But while workers all over America are trying to form unions, the corporate world also understands what's going on. They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to break unions, to engage in union busting, to fire workers who are trying to organize, to threaten workers they're going to move to China if the shop becomes organized, to fire workers who have been involved in organizing efforts, to take them into the back room and brainwash them about, anti-union propaganda. There is legislation that I am supporting which says that those corporations who engage in illegal, and all of that stuff is illegal, in illegal anti-union activity are going to be fined in a very serious way. And because Kamala understands that we got to grow the trade union movement, that one of the only ways the workers are going to get decent wages, decent benefits, decent retirement is through a growth in the trade union movement, she supports the PRO Act. And Donald Trump does not. We have made in recent years under Biden and Harris some progress, not enough, some progress in lowering the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America. For the first time in American history, after years and years of talk, we have had an administration that had the guts to take on one of the most powerful lobbies in Washington, and that is the very greedy pharmaceutical industry. And that means that right now seniors on Medicare pay no more than $35 a month for insulin. It means that we've lowered the cost of asthma inhalers. It means that come January, a few months from now, no senior in America, no matter how many prescription drugs they take, no senior will pay more than $2,000 a year out of pocket of cost. And it means, most importantly, that finally Medicare is negotiating the cost of prescription drugs with the pharmaceutical industry. That's a big deal. And we should be proud of what Biden and Harris have done in that effort, working with many of us in Congress. We got a long way to go yet. And that is that in America, none of us should have to pay a nickel more for prescription drugs than the people of any other country on earth. Let me tell you how pathetic our current health care system is. Now, I go on for many hours on that particular topic. But just one aspect that Kamala is attempting to deal with, and that is, unbelievably, in America today, if you come down with cancer and you undergo cancer treatment, It turns out that 25% of the people who get that cancer treatment either go bankrupt or deplete the family's financial resources. Can you believe that? Can you imagine people dealing with this terrible disease, struggling for their life, and then they got to worry about whether or not their family is going to go bankrupt? What Kamala Harris believes, what I believe, and what I think everybody in this room believes, we have got to cancel all medical debt in America. Now, let me touch on an issue that is not discussed enough in this campaign and that needs a lot more discussion. There are a lot of angry people in America. And you know what? People have a right to be angry. But when you get angry, take out your anger on the people who caused the problem, not people who are even worse off than you are. And yesterday, as Alexandria mentioned, Madison Square Garden, we saw what misdirected and vicious and ugly anger is all about. We saw people on the floor talking about Kamala Harris in not only a racist way, but in a vulgar, sexist way. We saw racism on stage in a way that I never thought I would be seeing in the year 2024. Xenophobia on stage in a way that I never thought I would be seeing. But I did not notice that one of those people who was so angry, so vicious, so ugly, had the guts to take on the ruling class whose greed is destroying America. That they did not have. You see, it's always easy to pick on people below you, people who are hurting, people who are worse off. Nothing new. Demagogues have done that for years. But taking on the big money interests, the people who have the wealth, the people who have the power, the people who call the tunes, well, I didn't see anybody up on that stage have the guts to do that. And that is precisely what our job is. What our job is not only in the next week to elect Kamala Harris as our next president, but our job is the day after to work hard to build the political movement that we need that will take on the big money interests and create an economy and a government that works for all of us. And one of the issues we have got to deal with, straight up, is the issue of big money in politics. Just a study came out yesterday, I think it was, talking about billionaires in this country spending over $2.5 billion on this election campaign. Handful of people, couple of hundred billionaires spending enormous sums of money. So it's not enough for these guys that they own the economy. Now they want to own the political system. And our job is to get rid of this disastrous Citizen United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Now, it seems almost every day Donald Trump is out there talking about Bernie Sanders and the far-left agenda. Well, it just so happens that that far-left agenda is supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. Whether they're Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Conservatives, Progressives, Moderates, people understand in America that health care is a human right, not a privilege. They understand that the function of a health care system is to provide quality care for all people, not huge profits for the drug companies and the insurance companies. And that's why Alexandria, Mark, and many of us, with your help, will finally see that Medicare for all comes to the United States of America. Now, Donald Trump goes around the country telling people that climate change is a hoax. Now, that is not only incredibly stupid, it is not only in defiance of what the entire scientific community says, but I do want to tell you it is incredibly dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Because if Trump is elected, and we give up in the largest economy in the world the struggle to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. If we run away from that, the next day China will be doing that, and Europe will be doing that, and every other country on earth. In other words, we will have surrendered the fight against climate change. And God only knows. After we saw what happened a few weeks ago in Florida, North Carolina, we saw the heat waves in Saudi Arabia, in Europe. We see the terrible forest fires in Canada, in the west coast of the United States. We see the extreme weather disturbances. My own state of Vermont hit time and time again all over the country, drought, floods. God only knows what this planet will look like if Trump gets elected and we give up and surrender the struggle against climate change. So we got to stand united, we got to beat Trump, and we have got to continue the effort to transform our energy system. And when we do that, we're going to create a whole lot of good-paying jobs. Just one example, if I may boast. Alexandria worked very hard on the Green New Deal, and we were able to get a number of components into that, into the Inflation Reduction Act. One of the things we got into, just to tell you this, one thing, is we were able to get a $7 billion program to help working-class people put solar panels on their rooftops. And that will not only protect the environment, it will create a whole lot of good-paying jobs. And that's what we were able to do there. And that's an effort that Kamala will continue. And when we talk about the needs in America, we are living in a highly competitive global economy. And I can tell you that in Vermont, and I'm sure it's not much different here in Wisconsin, we need all kinds of workers. We need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more dentists, we need more pharmacists, we need more mental health counselors, we need more plumbers, carpenters, electricians, construction workers. You know, we passed the largest infrastructure bill in the history of this country, and in my state, we don't have the workers to even do the work to rebuild our wastewater plants and our water systems. So we need the best educated workforce in the world. And it makes no sense to me, no sense at all, that we are seeing young people go deeply into debt because they want a higher education. Maybe it's college, maybe it's the training you need to be a good blue-collar worker. But whatever it is, people should not have to go into debt in order to get the education they need to do the work that our country desperately needs. Turns out that half of our older people in this country have nothing, older workers have nothing in the bank. 25% of senior citizens are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. Can you imagine trying to get by on $15,000 as a senior, or anybody? Half of seniors trying to get by on $30,000 or less. Now, in the House of Representatives, where Mark and Alexandria work, there are 80% of the Republicans there have a brilliant idea. They want to cut Social Security. Well, we have a somewhat different idea. We're going to expand Social Security. And we're going to do that by lifting the cap. Right now, you have the absurd situation. Somebody making $16 million contributes the same amount into Social Security. Somebody making $168,000. That's absurd. Lift the cap. We're going to expand benefits and extend Social Security for decades. Now, Donald Trump and his friends say, well, those are really fine ideas, Bernie. How are you going to pay for them? And I will tell you, Donald, how we're going to pay for them. You're going to start paying your fair share of taxes. And right now, we have the absurd situation where billionaires are paying an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses, if you can believe that. And apparently that is not enough for Trump. He came up with this brilliant idea the other day. I don't know if you saw it. We're going to eliminate all federal income taxes. Billionaires, millionaires, not going to pay a nickel more in federal income tax. Now, according to the economists that I have read, this will result in one of the most significant transfers of wealth in the history of our country. The rich, billionaires, millionaires will pay significantly less in taxes. Sales taxes and regressive taxes will go up all over this country. So there you got Donald Trump, a billionaire, working day and night for the billionaire class. And our job is to start working for the working class, the middle class of this country, so that we can create an economy that works for them, not just the few. Now, as I said earlier, people are angry, and they should be angry. You know why they should be angry? They should be angry that at a time when the richest people have never had it so good, 60% of our people in the United States of America are living paycheck to paycheck. They should be angry that we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. They should be angry that CEOs of major corporations are making 300 times what workers are making. They should be furious that our life expectancy in the wealthiest country on earth is lower than it is compared to almost every other major country on earth. And here's something that people really should be outraged about. In America today, if you are a working class person, the likelihood is you will live 5 to 10 years lower than if you are rich. You got that? And you know why that is? It's not only the health care crisis. That's important. People can't get to a doctor. We're losing 60,000 people a year because they don't get to a doctor when they should. They don't have the money, high deductibles, co-payments, all that stuff. That's only half of it. The other half is the stress. The stress that people living paycheck to paycheck are experiencing. I grew up in a family, and I know in that condition, I know what that stress is about. It means that the landlord raises your rent. You don't know where you're going to go. And you don't know what kind of school you're going to have to find for your kid. It means that if your car breaks down and you don't have any money in the bank, how the hell are you going to get it fixed? And if you can't get it fixed, how do you get to work? And if you don't get to work, you get fired. And if you get fired, what are you going to do? It means that if you are sick, you worry about, I can't go to the doctor. Or God forbid, I'm going to end up in the hospital, $200,000 bill. How the hell am I going to pay that? That's what people in this country are living with. That's why people are dealing with that stress, and that's why people are exhausted physically, mentally, and are dying 5 to 10 years younger than the rich. Now, brothers and sisters, this is the wealthiest country on earth. We have all kinds of new technology, artificial intelligence, that can and should make life better for all of the people, not just enrich the people on top. Over the last, if you can believe it, and again, this is why people are angry, over the last 50 years, despite an explosion in technology and an increase in worker productivity, the average American worker today is earning less in inflation adjusted for dollars than he or she did 50 years ago. And you know why? because there was a massive transfer of wealth that went from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. So that is where we are today, an economy where the people on top have never ever had it so good. A political system dominated by the billionaire class. And yet 60% of our people struggle, living paycheck to paycheck, dying 5, 10 years younger than the rich. So as we say in Vermont, enough is enough. So let us work in the next week to make Kamala our next president, and the day after. Let us bring our people together. Alexandria was talking a moment ago about how this right-wing demagogues out there, they are successful politically because they divide us up. Oh, you're black, I can't work with you. You're Latino, I can't work with you. You're Asian, no, I won't work with you. You're gay, I can't work with you. You're born in another country, I can't work with you. We're going to divide us all up. That's what they attempt to do. And what we have got to do is exactly the opposite. What we have got to do is bring our people together, black and white and Latino, Asian, gay and straight, born in America, born abroad, to create an agenda that speaks to the needs of the working class of this country. And it is an agenda, despite what Trump is telling the American people, that is widely supported by Democrats, Republicans, and independents. So, brothers and sisters, we can do it. You know, over the last many decades, this country has come a long way in the struggle for civil rights and breaking down racism. We should be proud of that. We've come a long way in the struggle against sexism and opening up opportunities to women that never existed 40, 50 years ago. We have come a long way in the fight against homophobia. We should be proud of all of that. But the one area that we have not made progress, and in fact are losing, is the economic struggle. So what we have got to do is bring our people together, tell the billionaire class that we will no longer accept their greed. This country belongs to all of us, not just a handful of greedy billionaires. That's our struggle. Let's do it. Thank you all.